Is Marlena, and my topic is the politics of food waste and its connection to food insecurity. This topic is very important because you can already see the conflict of having food waste and food insecurity in America and the world. So it's really just asking how can we as a society be more sustainable in that we minimize food waste and also don't allow food insecurity to happen because we have an abundance of food. So firstly, I want to talk about the definitions of food loss and food waste. There are varying definitions, but this source, I liked how they broke it down, so I will be saying their definitions, and this will help give you a general idea of what food loss is, what food waste is, and what the topic is mainly about. So food loss is the decrease in edible food mass throughout the part of the supply chain that specifically leads to edible food for human consumption. The drivers of food loss is infrastructure and limitations. So this can be climate and environmental factors, and quality, aesthetic, or safety standards. And for the sectors, the main sectors are production, post-harvest, and processing. Food waste is food which was originally produced for human consumption, but then was discarded or was not consumed by humans. And this includes food that's spoiled before disposal and food that will still be edible when thrown away. So the drivers of food waste, decisions made by consumers and businesses, and quality, aesthetic, and safety standards. So sectors of food waste is retail and consumer. So at the retail and institutional levels, we can see all these different factors that play a role. First being unpurchased specialty holiday food, 2 being damaged packaging, 3 being damaged or inadequately prepared items, 4 being overstocking or over preparation of food, 5th being routine kitchen preparation waste, and 6 being outgrading / quality control. So using a green criminological lens, we can look at how policies have failed to prevent food waste, and these policies may regulate food disposal under certain conditions or prevent its redistribution. And these policies may have the goal to achieve benefits like food safety or enhanced nutrition, but this can lead to increased food waste. And the USDA and the European Union have recognized that food safety policies contribute to waste. But they also have to consider human health and protection of being the primary concern. So this is just one example of how food waste is politicized, because of course if you have a large society and you really want to regulate the safety of food, there's going to be some food waste if the food isn't safe by your standards. So that's just an example of how this topic can be politicized. It might not just be as black and white as we may like. So litigation may discourage the reuse or redistribution of edible food, but examples of policies include the policy of, in 2010, the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act, which required the USDA to update nutrition standards of the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program, and this policy has been criticized for producing more food waste because students don't like the new meals and they throw them away. And another example is in China, which is a country, just to give a sociological view of how other countries manage waste and really see that cultural aspect or that consumer aspect of trying to regulate waste. We can see that in China they had an anti-food waste law, and this specifically applied to the catering industry, because not only is it easier to regulate a public industry, but it is in comparison to households, but it was also more acceptable to the general public. So once again, that cultural aspect of having a good relationship with the people that you're enforcing these regulations with is very central and will be a common thing throughout this whole presentation. So, consumer behavioral choices influencing food wastage at the household level. Look at consumer behavior in relation to food, planning, and shopping, storage preparation, and consumption. Both food waste and food loss add to the environmental impact of food production and supply chain because it requires more production than is needed in relation to the market demand. So, according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, here are the main effects of food waste on the environment. You can just take time to look at how food waste does harm the environment because, once again, it's food that's being wasted. So, it's really the environment got harmed for seemingly no reason. But you can just see how impactful this topic is. So even though America is facing problems with food waste is a global phenomenon and is likely to increase if not curbed by prevention policies. Definition of food insecurity based on Oxford Dictionary is the condition of not having access to sufficient food or food of an adequate quality to meet one's basic needs. Food insecurity is very politicized because it often minoritizes people who face food insecurity. In the U.S., nearly 1.5%, or 15%, my bad, of households were food insecure, and at some point, or this was in 2012, and as if food resources were managed better and waste were minimized, resources could be used to feed the hungry, such as diverting excess food through charitable donations. If we look at groups like Black Americans who have been historically oppressed and face food insecurity, we see how essential food is to the social order. Black Americans have faced generational poverty in a capitalistic society like America, which has an abundance of food. So food criminalization is a topic that comes up when one is looking at food insecurity. An example of this would be the Black Panther Party and their food programs, which the FBI targeted and dismantled because of political reasons, like Black people not being accepted into society. So they targeted this. Another example is food or dumpster diving, which is partially illegal in the US but is completely illegal in Germany. So these are just various examples of how food can be criminalized, and just adds to that sociological aspect of this topic. So this nations can adopt ever-changing nutritional and food supply standards differently, and the cultural and economic factors of said nations typically influence this. The main driver is modernization in food supply chains, and this includes industrialization, economic growth, and urbanization and globalization. On a cultural aspect, attitudes about food management can change and fluctuate, and social norms and cultural beliefs play a key role in individuals' perception of food waste. So socioeconomic factors like age, gender, income level, and urbanization intersect with household food waste patterns. And to think more critically, we can see how this breaks social order, and this political mandate to ensure that food is adequately distributed and equitable. There are a lot of factors that go into food waste, like the study that found that little difference in the relationship between food waste and store proximity among households that shop at differing frequencies and with varying basket sizes. And the exception is that distance to small food stores increases food waste among households shopping occasionally at small food stores, and households purchasing a moderate amount of fresh food per trip experiences less food waste when there is food that is further away. Among low-income households, purchasing a large amount of fresh food, however, at a great distance to large store is related to much greater food waste. So continuing to look at the cultural aspect and cultures and the value of hospitality, may engage in less effective inventory and meal management practices. Also, individuals with firm ethical and religious views against food wastage tend to manage their surplus food in a way that reduces waste. And based on these cultural distances, a policy that considers diverse cultural backgrounds can be used for these unique values and attitudes to build momentum and reduce food waste. And lastly, food banks are essential to the resources in fighting food waste and food insecurity, but can be used to reinforce the status quo of an exploitative, environmentally destructive system. So it's important for food banks to aid in food justice and food sovereignty and build coalitions that envision a more resilient, equitable, and ecologically vibrant food future. And when the government and private sectors fail, food banks are key, but also the state is the main actor and has a formal role and commitment to protect citizens from the worst effects of instances of environmental victimization. So the main point is that culture and society play a major role in this. Culture and the government, but the government plays a bigger role. And food waste is very politicized, and it has a lot of factors that go into it, like geological region, socioeconomic factors. So many things go into it. So it's really just helping the culture